So it's been about 2 weeks since Meghan and Prince Harry had their interview, and I waited to make this video because I kind of wanted to see the fallout of the interview in society. And I feel like most of the fallout has been about the racism that Meghan felt in the UK, and also obviously like who was the person that asked how dark their child would be. Interestingly, there hasn't really been a lot of talk about Meghan's mental health. They're mostly focused on the racism in the royal family. So there's been a lot of videos breaking down the racism aspect of this interview. My favorite was by Khadijah.
Oh, we see what side you're on. Oh, you're closer to your black mom than your white dad? Uh-oh. So you really identify with this black shit, huh? Anti-blackness, man. It'll get you every time.
So I don't want to add to that conversation. I kind of want to do something different. I want to talk about something that I feel has been lost in this conversation, and that's really the royals' relationship with the media. Prince Harry talked about it being a symbiotic. Prince Harry talked about it being a symbiotic relationship where both need each other. So I want to look at that relationship and break it down, but then also explain how Meghan's relationship with the media kind of blew it all up. So in her interview, Meghan talked a lot about how the UK tabloids are very different from the Hollywood magazines that you see in the States. And the UK tabloids have a tradition of being much more vicious in the stories that they write about celebrities and royals. So UK tabloids aren't really concerned about talking about the news or politics in an impartial way. All of their news coverage is steeped in this moralism that reflects the obsession of the middle class of the UK. The middle class in the UK has a very particular way of looking at the world, and these tabloids cater to that viewpoint, and so they sensationalize news stories of people who deviate from that particular worldview. The tabloids have a reputation of being funny and rude, and they've been a staple in British society since the late 19th century. So you could kind of talk about the UK tabloids before Rupert Murdoch and after Rupert Murdoch. So Rupert Murdoch is a media mogul. He's Australian, but he owns news outlets all over the world. You might know him as the guy that owns Fox News in the States. So his tabloids became very popular, and over time, especially in the 80s when Prince Charles was beginning to date and find a wife, he found that using his tabloids to talk about the love lives and private lives of the royals dramatically increased sales. So it's generally believed that the tabloids play some role in shaping public opinion, because if you have a tabloid with a headline and you can see that a lot of people are buying this headline, it's probably because they want to know about that story. You wouldn't pay for something that you don't agree with. So if a lot of people are buying a tabloid with a specific headline about a royal or about a politician, and all of the other tabloids are running similar stories, then you can sort of draw a correlation between what the tabloids are saying and what people must be believing. So now in the world of digital media, where newspapers have to rank in search in order to get ad revenue, they're gonna try to have the craziest title, the craziest headline, so that you come to their article and not their competitors. And this also means that whatever the competitors are writing about, they also have to write about. So if you're a newspaper and your competitor is writing a story about Meghan and Prince Harry's interview, then you have to write a story too. Because if you don't, everyone that's searching about this interview will go to your competitor's sites, and they will see the ads on the competitor's sites, and your competitor will get that money and not you. So you have to write a story, and your headline has to be crazier than your competitor's headline, so people come to your story and not your competitors. And these publishers at these media organizations, they know that the public has a long-standing interest in the royal family. And so they're always gonna write stories about the royal family because they know it sells. Queen Elizabeth was actually one of the first monarchs to really open herself up to the general public when she televised her coronation in 1953. So if you watch The Crown, you know that this is like one of the first times that the UK general public felt like they knew the royals because they can see them. And so the newspaper, radio, and television were ways that the royal family could open themselves up to the public and build a closer relationship with them because of the sense of availability and closeness that these media gave to the royal family. But now the royals have kind of been dragged into this celebrity culture that we've developed. Like, we expect to know everything about our celebrities and to know how they make their money, where they got it from, how hard they work. And in return, it's almost like I know how they got to that position, so now I know if I work hard, I can also be rich. But the royals are not like that. You can't just work hard and then become a royal. Even though the royals have now been dragged into the celebrity culture where people feel like they expect to know things about the royal, they still need to maintain some sort of a distance to keep their hierarchy and protect their institution. So this is where it kind of gets tricky for the tabloids, because they know that their readers want to know about the royals, and they also know the royals want the public to know certain things about them. But what the royals want the public to know is very different than what the public wants to know about the royals. So the tabloids are in this middle ground where they need to sell papers, but they also can't piss off the royal family because then they can lose access to them. So the tabloids then buy photos of the royals from paparazzi paparazzis. They pay commentators and people who are close to the royals for scoops and like analysis to write stories, and then they try to use this information to sell papers. Or, in what Prince Harry explained, they can get their scoop from the royals themselves and use that to sell papers as well. But writing a shocking or negative story about the royals sells more papers than writing a nice story about them. And so now both parties, the tabloids and the royals, find themselves in a situation where they can't really define their relationship between each other, but they know that they need each other. So now that the UK royal family no longer serves as much of a role in the government, they sort of morphed into a cultural role where they become a symbol of the best of British society. Prince Charles marrying Diana Spencer, someone from a rich English family, a virgin, is a good representation of British culture. Prince Charles having an affair with a married woman is a news story. I know that's right! At the end of the day, people identify with people. Politicians come and go, but a successful royal family is able to maintain a human continuity at the heart of a country's society. So to some degree, the royal family wants to portray themselves in the media, but on the other hand, they don't need the public to see too much because then they're gonna start to question why they even exist. That's why a royal historian named Dr. Laura Clancy wrote this. The monarchy relies on a careful balance of visibility and invisibility to maintain its power, as the inner workings of a monarchy must be kept invisible to protect the institution from scrutiny. In other words, what does the royal family really do? Like, what do they really do? Even when you read articles with the title, "What does the royal family do?" you still don't really know what they do. That's why they have to keep promoting this positive image of themselves in the public. Because if you see them in the newspaper or hear about them on the radio or see them on television, it's like, oh, like, look, that's the royal family, look how cute they are, look how happy they look. But if all they did was mess up in front of the public all the time, then you would start to wonder, like, what is the point of them? Why are they here? What do they do? So the royal family needs the media to keep up their positive image, and the media needs the royal family to attract readers. But what readers want to read about the royal family is not what the royal family wants readers to know. And so the royal family has sort of adopted this motto of never complain, never explain. Like, to a degree, they understand that there's going to be stories written about them that are not great, but if they never engage in the rumors, then they just die. But all of this really changed once Diana came into the picture, because Prince Charles' wedding to Diana Spencer was televised and 750 million people watched it. And that's when the tabloids realized that there was a real interest in Diana. So Prince Charles and Diana's marriage falling apart was the best thing that ever happened to the tabloids. They were able to sell so many papers off of this drama. And so the paparazzi pursued Diana after her divorce from Prince Charles because the tabloids were paying so much money for photos of her. Because any story they wrote about Diana sold papers. Obviously, all of this ended in 1997 when she died in a car crash trying to escape the paparazzi. And that's when things changed for the tabloids and the media in the UK public opinion. People really blamed them for her death. And so the tabloids came out and said, like, we're not gonna buy any pictures of the royal family from the paparazzi to try to curry favor back with the public. But post Diana's death, they had the worst sales they had ever experienced because they had lost access to Diana, obviously, because she had passed away. And the royal family told them that they could no longer photograph her two sons, Prince Harry and Prince William. So Diana really shook up the invisible contract between the royal family and the media. The invisible contract basically means that the royals will give the press public exposure, they can get the photos that they want, and the royals will accept a certain level of scrutiny in the press, but in return, the royals want privacy behind palace gates. This contract sort of developed after Princess Diana's death, where there was a lot of emphasis on the privacy that the royals deserve so that this doesn't happen again. And there's a lot of rules that go into this contract. So one is the pressure cooker agreement, which basically states that when Prince William and Prince Harry were in school, they were not to be photographed to maintain their privacy. But when they came home for the summer or for the holidays, the royal family would set up public engagements so that they could be photographed. Another rule is a red carpet rule. So this means that any photographs taken at public engagements are fair game, but when the royals are not at public engagements, they are not to be photographed. And then there's also this royal rota system. So how this works is the royals will set up a public engagement and they'll invite reporters and photographers that they want to be there. So obviously you're gonna invite the ones that give you a good news story. So you might be a reporter or a photographer that the royal family doesn't want at the event, but if you're in this royal rota system and you weren't invited to the event, you're not really stressed because whoever is going to the event from your pool is gonna come back and give you those photos anyways. So this system is actually something that Prince Harry has said annoys him because it means the royals cannot control who ends up with pictures from these events. So then the royals could be in a situation where they feed information to a reporter that they like, and then that reporter has to give that information back to the pool, and now a negative story has come out from that information that came directly from a royal. And so they're kind of biting the hand that feeds them, where they're getting information that they can now take and run with before anybody else, but then they're using it to write a negative news story about them. And this is why Prince Harry said that his family members are concerned about being turned on by the tabloids. And I feel like the person who should be most concerned is Prince Charles, because realistically, if reporters started writing negative stories about Prince Charles and public opinion on him shift, then like why even become king? We'll just skip you and go to Prince William. So now the younger generation of the royals are trying to use social media to break the news before the tabloids. So they'll share intimate moments of their lives on social media even though they're highly staged. That way they can get the message out the way they want to without having the tabloids distort it. And this is starting to cause tension between the palace and the tabloids. So since the death of Princess Diana, the media in the UK has kind of undergone its own self-regulation period where they no longer buy photos from the paparazzi if it sort of oversteps the privacy bound that the royals have asked for. But this hasn't stopped the paparazzi from taking these photos because they know that they have an international market of media outlets outside of the UK that will pay for these photos. But the reason the media organizations in the UK don't buy these paparazzi photos of the royals is because they know the royals will hit them in court with privacy lawsuits. But when these photos are used outside of the UK, the royals don't say anything. So really the royals are using privacy law to protect their image in the UK and don't really try to apply it anywhere outside. And the reason the media outlets in the UK would be upset about this is because they're losing money. If tabloids in other countries are making money off the British royals, why can't tabloids in the UK do the same? Kate Samuelson wrote a really good article about this in The Time, and I'm just gonna quote a paragraph here. At the same time, the proliferation of social media has indelibly altered the notion of privacy. When people independently choose to broadcast their most intimate moments, the lines between what is and is not acceptable media access becomes increasingly blurred. The media must operate within this ambiguous territory without overstepping the perceived notions of privacy, yet also serving the appetite of editors and consumers. So as you can imagine, the UK media did not receive Meghan and Harry's interview well. It actually prompted a very quick response by the Society of Editors Executive Director Ian Murray, in which he said, "The UK media has never shied away from holding a spotlight up to those in positions of power, celebrity, or influence. If sometimes the questions asked are awkward and embarrassing, then so be it, but the press is most certainly not racist." So that response was followed up by an open letter by over 200 BAME journalists, BAME meaning Black, Asian, or minority ethnicity, in which they listed multiple facts of the lack of diversity in UK media and how that created blind spots in how the media covered Meghan Markle. And at the end of the open letter, they closed it off with a really important statement, which I think was the whole point of this interview, which was to start a conversation. The Society of Editors should have used the comments by the Sussexes to start an open and constructive discussion about the best way to present racist coverage in the future, including through addressing lack of representation in the UK media, particularly at a senior level. The blanket refusal to accept there is any bigotry in the British press is laughable, does a disservice to journalists of color, and shows an institution and industry in denial. After that open letter blew up, Ian Murray promptly stepped down, and the Society of Editors released a statement of clarification in which they stated, "There is a lot of work to be done in the media to improve diversity and inclusion. We will reflect on the reaction our statement prompted and work towards being part of the solution." So Meghan and Prince Harry were pretty clear that the reason they had an issue with the press was because the racist undertones in how she was covered brought out a different side in people that increased the threat level to them. And she's entirely right, like tabloids make money off of anger. And there's a lot of social tensions in the UK over immigration and race and class that make good stories for tabloids. At the end of the day, Meghan and Harry just refused to offer themselves up as a currency for an economy of clickbait and distortion. So in the interview with Oprah, they obviously exposed the invisible contract that the royals have with the press, but even before they left the royal family, they were still breaking that contract in their own right. They completely cut the tabloids' access to them, most notably when they decided not to stand in front of the hospital to take their picture after Meghan had given birth to Archie. And even recently, Meghan Markle won a lawsuit where she sued a tabloid for financial damages because they published private letters between her and her father. And the judge even agreed for her damages to be paid based on how much money the tabloid made off of running that story. And that hits directly to the invisible contract that they exposed in their interview, because tabloids run negative stories to make money. So the more intimate detail they can get on the royals, the better the story they can run. And so Meghan getting damages based on how much money they made just proves how private those letters were. It's really hard to argue with Meghan and Prince Harry's decision to leave the UK when you realize that the tabloids were were going after everybody she ever knew in her past before meeting Harry. They were calling ex-boyfriends, they were calling family members that she barely spoke to. They keep trying to get in touch with her dad, who they know that she's not on good terms with. And that's just the tabloids trying to get sources for their articles, but sometimes they just go to commentators, like professional royal commentators whose job it is to just talk about the royals. And there's actually a really good video on YouTube by Josh Pitters and Archie Manners. They called 4 professional royal commentators and asked them to give their opinion on the interview before the interview even aired.
Meghan Markle saying she won't take the vaccine in the interview. What was your reaction to that?
I think it's very selfish.
Not only did these commentators agree, they actually never even stopped to say, actually, I want to watch the interview before I give my response. And that's to just give you pause to make you realize, like, what are these people really commentating on if they can comment on something that they haven't even seen yet. And I also thought it was really interesting that Prince Harry said he was comfortable with watching The Crown, but he wasn't comfortable with the media coverage of Meghan. And I think what he's trying to get across there is that he understands that because he's a royal, people are gonna tell stories about his life. The Crown as a TV show is a historical drama. So in some sense, they're making up the backstory between the relationships in the royal family about real events. The tabloids, on the other hand, are just making up lies, and they're using racist tropes to sell newspapers. So Prince Harry understands that his life story will be used in some aspect for entertainment, but he's also saying that he draws the line at racism and lies. So in conclusion, this whole interview was a PR stunt, yes, but also when you're a royal, the only way you can actually communicate with anybody is through the media. So it's not like they're acting out of character here. I think what Prince Harry and Meghan were trying to do was change the narrative. A lot of their story had been told through the tabloids, and they weren't able to get their story out the way they wanted to. And so this was their way of doing it. And it was also a slap in the face to the UK press to do it with an American talk show host. So I think they wanted to do 3 things. 1, they wanted to explain the real reason why they left. 2, they wanted to do a little feature for their new initiatives, Spotify, Disney+. But 3rd, and most importantly, I think they wanted to force the hand of the institution to almost bring them back. They said straight up in the interview that they would still be royals had they had the support that they needed. And I also think it was very obvious, to me at least, that they tried really, really hard to villainize the UK tabloids and the institution, as in the people that work for the royal family, but then victimize themselves and the royal family. And not victimize in the sense that, like, they're not actually victims, but they're trying to be victims. Like, Prince Harry felt pity for his father and his brother and his grandma because they have to take the advice of people that give them bad advice. He literally said they were trapped and acting out of fear of the tabloids turning on them. They were trying to say that the real problem is the institution and the tabloids, not the royal family. So basically they're trying to drag the firm and the royal family into the 21st century by saying, like, Meghan Markle is our pathway to incorporating all of the black countries in the Commonwealth, and we can also redo the whole Diana situation with her. Not saying that she's gonna be the new people's princess, but like, at least she was someone that the people liked. So it's pretty obvious that the fallout from this interview has been really, really bad for the institution. Just the fact that Meghan was the first black person to really be in this family and she had to leave so quickly just proves that there is stuff to work on there. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out, if the changes in the UK media really do come about, and if the institution does reach out to Meghan and Prince Harry to welcome them back in. I personally think the only way for them to look better after this is for them to welcome back Meghan and Prince Harry into the family to show that they've grown and they're making steps to move forward. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about the relationship between the press and the royal family and how they can change it for the 21st century. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more content, and thank you for watching.